Renfield, the tortured aide to his narcissistic boss, Dracula, is forced to procure his master's prey and do his every bidding. However, after centuries of servitude, he's ready to see if there's a life outside the shadow of the Prince of Darkness. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back, guys. My name is Justin. Thank you for stopping by and hanging out with me today to talk about Renfield. I actually saw this a few days ago. If you've been following the channel, my Rad Pack homies, my podcast, Mel and Born to Be Rad, Garrett, we're here for the weekend. We spent a weekend watching more movies than I've ever watched in one time at Panic Fest. It's a local horror film fest. We saw a ton of movies that haven't been released yet, or maybe in some cases aren't even finished, but we saw a ton of upcoming movies. If you're interested in hearing about some movies that you need to keep an eye out for, I will link those videos down below. In particular, Bury the Bride was awesome. You can watch that now on Tubi. We also saw Evil Dead. I also saw Beau is Afraid, which I've done a couple videos for, but today we're going to be talking about Renfield. Me and Garrett caught that the day he was leaving, and I'm just now getting around to talking about it. This movie honestly was one of my most anticipated movies of 2023 until I saw the trailer. I was beyond excited to see Nicolas Cage play a vampire again. The premise and the concept seemed really interesting. Then the trailer dropped and there was a shift in my interest due to the tone of the movie. I didn't know it was going to be so comedic, and we'll talk about that. That's part of the reason why I feel like it wasn't fully up to the potential that I feel it could be. But let's just go ahead and break down Renfield. I didn't love it as much as I thought I was going to. I'll just say that right off the top. I'll talk about what I liked about it first. The premise and the setup, like I said, is very cool. All of the performances are fantastic all around, with the exception of just one actor that I think was just kind of miscast. Nothing against Awkwafina, but her character bugged me a little bit. We'll get into that. But like I said, the premise is really cool. You have Nicholas Hoult, who for years and years and years, decades, possibly hundreds of years, has been the servant to Nicolas Cage's Dracula. His name is Renfield. He's in a support group. We find a lot of these scenes with him in a support group for abusive relationships, because throughout hundreds of years or decades or however long it's been, he has been the bitch of Nicolas Cage's Dracula character, doing his bidding, doing his cooking, cleaning, procuring bodies for him and victims and all this, and he's just had enough. The shitty treatment that he's got for decades from Nicolas Cage, treating him like just basically a servant for hundreds of years, he's finally ready to escape, and he expresses all of his feelings in a self-help group, or kind of an anonymous group, like Alcoholics Anonymous, but for domestic partnerships. And he also has a little bit of Nicolas Cage's powers. At one point he was bitten, and it was giving just enough of his power to sort of kind of help Dracula, because he has to have certain powers to overcome victims. But to get his powers, he has to eat bugs. He doesn't like full-on feast on people, but he has to eat bugs to gain his powers, his superhuman strength and fighting abilities and all that shit. So he does have a percentage of like vampire power. And I really like that aspect of the movie. Nicolas Cage's Dracula character is just incapable of living in the shadows and keeping a low profile. Dracula creates all these messes with bodies piling up. He wants to basically populate the world. And it's making it very difficult for Renfield to clean up Dracula's messes. All of that is really cool. I love that whole setup. Nicolas Cage as Dracula is fucking amazing. Every time he is on screen as Dracula, it's amazing. And even this supporting actor was really good, because there's this whole subplot of this crime family that wants to join forces with Renfield. So Renfield kind of responds to that. He wants another aide that more aligns with his dark ambitions. Once the introduction of Renfield happens, and the final straw of him almost dying and taking years to sort of build back up, Nicolas Cage is burned alive, and so there's a portion of the movie where he's slowly building up to full power again, and he's in various stages of like decomposition as he heals. All of that was really, really cool. And the movie just kind of tanked for me once it turns into this big action John Wick fest, where it's all these highly CGI choreographed fight scenes that I just kind of got bored with. And you just don't see enough of what makes the movie great, and that's Nicolas Cage being all caged out as Dracula. Once the kind of crime world subplot starts happening, and the cop, Awkwafina's character, who I just think was grossly miscast. I did not buy her for a single solitary second as this cop who's trying to put an end to this crime family and Renfield. It just gets really silly and bogged down with silly humor, convoluted action sequences, and CGI, and that's kind of where the movie fell for me. I enjoyed the movie for what it tried to be at the beginning, and by the end of it, I was just kind of ready for it to be over. It just didn't deliver on what a movie with Nicolas Cage as Dracula can be. I get you kind of have to add a little bit of comedy because of how Nicolas Cage is generally over the top. He is very expressive. He is full on Nick Cage in these scenes, so I don't think you can take a deadly serious approach to his Dracula. Maybe in another movie you could, but in this movie, I just felt the comedy overshadowed what could have been a really cool performance from Nick Cage that we only get bits and spurts of. So it just didn't work for me all around. If I had to give it a Letterboxd review, it's gonna sit probably at a 2.5. I think that's what I rated it on Letterboxd. It's just right down the middle for me. It could have been great. I would wait for streaming. I don't think this is a rush out to the theater movie to see. Sorry to say it, I love supporting movies in theaters, but this one, you could probably wait till it comes on HBO Max or streaming or whatever. But guys, I think we're done here. Stay weird. Remember to always be yourself, and I will see you in the next one.